Mike Cheney is the CEO of the Persogenics Corporation and a professor at the Brigham Young University School of Social Work, teaching in the master's program. Professor Cheney developed the Persogenics system 30 years ago and is an internationally respected authority in the field of human behavior. Prior to his work with Persogenics, Cheney served as the Vice President of Automatic Data Processing, ADP, mentoring and leading sales teams. He specialized in teaching business and organizations how to reduce turnover and enhance performance by hiring the right people. Cheney joined InsideSales.com in 2015 and brings more than 3 decades of dynamic speaking and synergistic training experience.
Hello, everyone. It's Mike Cheney. I'm excited to be able to talk to you about the concept of how do we keep our best people, how do we find them, and how do we retain them. This is the area that I've worked in my whole life. I hope that you'll find this information valuable to you. Persogenics has been around for a long time. We began at Harvard University, and that's where we have come from. And where we are today is we were acquired recently by Inside Sales, who wanted to be able to take the human capital that organizations spend so much money and time on and find a way to help select and match people so that they can be happiest and most productive in the position that they are in. I'd like to begin by talking about some of the facts and the things that we know. The industry trends and the number one topic of conversation here is the following. There are 3 major reasons that people being salespeople in this situation, leave you and go to another job. The top 3 are: 1, they did not like the job. It didn't fit them. They had the skills for it. They thought it was going to be great, but the job after a while wasn't them. The second thing is they got an offer from somebody that was more than 14% of what they were currently making, and therefore they took another offer. And the third thing is they didn't get along with their boss. Now, 2 of those we can address, and the 2 we're going to address is matching a person to a position so that they will enjoy it, it fits them, and they like the job. And the second thing is getting along with their manager. So let's begin by looking at this following statement from the Harvard Business Review. Choosing the wrong candidate will cause your organization to pay a heavy price for months, if not years, to come. How do I know that? Well, if I take the amount of turnover you have, I look at the quotas of the folks and what they're expected to do, and they're gone in 6 months or a year, it isn't hard to figure out that you got to rehire and you got to revamp, and you've already lost the quota you were hoping to obtain. So if we wanted to put numbers to this, and by the way we do, I would encourage all of you to have us come in and do an assessment of your best practices for hiring and retaining your people. We can tell you exactly the strengths and weaknesses in that process within your organization, and we can help you correct any deficiencies that you might have. Next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is a thing called the trends in the industry. Employee retention and engagement are considered the number one problem that's faced in 2015 among sales organizations. 80% of turnover is due to hiring mistakes. What does that mean? It means that we liked the person, we interviewed the person, we thought they were great, we looked at their skill sets, we checked their resume, we did all these things, and we hired them, and it didn't work out. That's costly. So those mistakes can be monitored, they can be marginalized. There are ways, and I'm going to talk to you about that and show that to you, that you can avoid having that happen within your organization. So how do we increase your net profits on your sales? We allow you to match people and jobs, and then we allow you to maintain the relationship with them so that they stay with you as a company and you don't have to rehire. Now, cost of turnover, there's lots of ways to figure this out. The ones that I have here on the screen for you are showing you what the industrial standards have told us from the various studies that have been done. But most of you will look at those and go, well, it can't be that much, or maybe it's more, but you'll have your own opinion. That's why I really don't care too much for what the industry says. But what I do care about is that you do recognize that there is a cost every time you go through the efforts of finding, hiring, and trying to retain people and having them leave you. And that number is a real number. And while in the past it's always been just a cost of doing business, It's not the case today. That cost of doing business is in the hundreds of thousands. In some organizations, depending on your size, it's into the millions. So what you need to do is use a calculator. By the way, we have some of those for you. If you'd like them, just contact us, and we'll have you answer a series of questions. It'll tell you exactly what your cost is of turnover among your salespeople. Here's a wonderful slide. It's supposed to impress all of you. It's showing you that if you have 300 employees and you have a 20% turnover rate in the sales, your cost of replacing them according to national standards is going to be $3.7 million. Most of you aren't going to believe that because that just seems like an awfully large number. But the reality is, until you figure out what your exact cost is for turnover, you don't know what the number is. But I can guarantee you it's 2 and 3 times whatever you've paid that person from the time that you hired them to the time that they left you to replace them. And we can show that to you if you'd like to see it. We can happy to do that for you. So what's the solution to turnover? The solution is pretty obvious. You have to match the nature of a person, the way they like to work, the environment they like to work in. You have to match that to the job, the culture, the nature of the job. Now, there are a lot of personality assessments out there that many of you are using now or have used in the past. They're great. They're good. They give you an idea of somebody's nature and how they'll do some things, but they do not measure the degree to which that personality or that pattern is utilized in the process of sales. And they don't match a job. They don't have assessments that match jobs to people and their nature. We do. Of course, we think we're great at that. But the answer to that is, let us show you, and we can. Now, you have to be able to integrate this personal profile. Somebody takes a profile that's looking for a job and a position in your company. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you how that's done on our end. And we need to know about that right away. One of the numbers that we have that's important for you to know about is that from the time someone posts their first resume for a job, the best people are usually gone in somewhere between 7 to 10 days from the time they do their first posting of a resume. So if our organization, your organization, is not getting to people within about 48 hours, you're not getting the very best people through the door applying for that position. You're getting good people, but maybe not the ones you really, really should have been interviewing. We can do the assessment on that and tell you how to improve that, how to increase your effectiveness at that if you'd like. We're happy to do it, of course. If you match the personal profile of an individual applying for a position to the job fit assessment on that position, your likelihood of a successful hire will be right at 73%. That's a pretty good number, especially if you look at some of the things that some of the numbers of what's happened for your organization before. So selecting the right employee, well, let us help you do that. There's a large pool, there's a small pool. We don't have enough people, we have too many people. It doesn't matter what it is. The key is interview the ones that match the job first, and then you'll find the success that you're looking for. You'll find the decreased turnover and the increase in ramping. Of course, you never would have guessed that what I'm about to tell you is we have a solution for you that'll just work wonderfully, but we do. We've been using it for a long time. We have had great success with our organizations that have used it. We've reduced turnover significantly. We've increased sales. And these are not numbers that as sales guys and gals we're going to be trying to sell you on. These are just the numbers that come from our clients. In fact, I've had one of our clients that we had about a half ago that started was Ringcentral, and I remember when they came on, they wondered what every sales organization wants. Mike, give us a deal. We love this. We think it's great, but give us a deal. And so I did. I offered them a deal. I said, I need something from you. I need you to record a lot of information on every person you hire. I want you to do a comparison between those that you hire using Persogenics and our processes and our analytics. And I want you to continue to do what you're doing. And I want to know what those two groups do. And they agreed to do that. And we gave them a discount for doing it. Here's the little email that came through when I knew I was going to be doing one of these things. I called Dave DeMink over at Ringcentral. He's the president of sales, vice president of sales there. And this is what he sent me back. Now, I know you can read this as well as I can, but I just got to talk about this to show you an example of what you can expect if you're using Persogenics. Dave indicates that they had two groups that they measured performance on. And the group that that matched to the profile that we developed for them for the job and how to match the nature of the person to that job, they were 12% higher than those that were in the other group that was used to continuing the way they did. What I thought was interesting was they both scored well on their quota. One did 103% and one group did 115%. The 12% doesn't always seem like a big number, but as Dave points out, a $40 million target, that was $5 million more additional sales made by those that were matched to the job rather than just the usual process of how we hire new people and go through the interviewing process. While I got excited about that, he pointed out to me that that was only part of it. And then he went ahead and indicated what the small business market, what they did and how much that meant. But the one I really liked that I think all of you would find interesting is that third one. He found that Tier 2, by the way, we rank these folks before you ever even do your first interview. We can tell you, look, you need to talk to these people. They're in Tier 1. That means they're within 10 points of a match on that job, being a job they're going to like, enjoy, and stay with. And that happens, in their case, would be Tier 1. But they hired some people out of Tier 2, and what they found out was 50% of those people left before the first year was done. The Tier 1 reps they hired out of, which were the match, they lost none of them their first year at all. So anyway, that's supposed to impress all of you. I hope you, if you got this far in there and you read that, you ought to be a little bit impressed, at least interested in whether or not we could talk to you about this and show you some things we can do for your organization. How does it work? Let me go into the details of that as quickly as possible. I think I'm on kind of a time frame here for I don't know how long I've got, but I'm going to talk until someone tells me to stop. So here's how it works. The first thing that you do, you take a position that you want to hire for, and you do what we call a job fit assessment. Now that position has to be evaluated by 2 people, and sometimes 3. And those 2 or 3 people need to know that position extremely well. Now they don't need to know the kind of person you want to put in that position. We're not measuring the person or the personality. We're measuring the nature of the job. What is this job like? If I came to work there every day, what does this job require of me? Now, not the skill sets it requires. That's done with another part of this assessment. But this portion is, what's the job about? And will I match that? Will I like that environment? Will that be where I want to be? Because if it is, I'll stay. And if it is, I will be able to make my sales quota faster. I'll be able to do a better job. So that's the first thing. That's called a job fit. Then the second thing we do is we send a link that comes from that job fit, and we post that either on our site or whichever. Maybe if we're using recruiters, it goes there, or we use job sites. You put it wherever you put your advertisement for a position. And when someone reads it, they're going to read something that says, wow, that sounds like me. And those are the people you want to apply if they have the skills. The people you don't want to apply and spend a lot of time interviewing and finding out that they're not the right person are those that look at that and say, well, that job doesn't sound like me, but, I could do that job. By the title, I know I could do it. Well, those are maybe good people. Maybe there's the diamond in there, but, let's screen and let's talk to the people that match the job first. Then we'll see if we need to go to another tier. Then there's what we call a job ad generator. That means that after they've done this, these 2 or 3 people have done their assessment on the position, we tell them that out of that assessment that they took, which, by the way, takes them about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes to do, they have determined, the system goes through and says, here are 10 characteristics that were really prominent in this assessment you just took. We suggest that you use these 10 in your advertisement, in your soliciting people for this position, because when they read them, they'll make a connection. It'll mesh up with their thinking. That means that they'll see that job as one worth applying for. That's one thing we do, and that helps screen out the people that aren't a match for the job. And then after you've talked to them, or after they've all done their assessments, the next day, in fact, if they did them all over the weekend, on Monday, you'd be looking at a report that says, look, you had 42 people applied for this position, and you have 9 of them that are all in Tier 1. That means they're within 10 points of what you're looking for. Call them right now. Get an appointment. Do a pre-screen. Get them in here. And that would be the comparison report that tells you what to do. Then we have the interview questions. That's kind of the final check on that you have the right person in front of you. And these questions are behavioral based, and they're very unique. salespeople usually come to an interview prepared for an interview. They know the usual questions that are asked. They've been practicing. And if they're a good salesperson, they're just plain smooth. They're good at knowing what to say. That's why the behavioral questions that we prepare for you are different. And here's how they work. They have a tendency to have the person change their thinking that they've prepared for and have to answer questions on things that they hadn't prepared for. They have to use descriptors of things. And then after they've done that, we ask them to tell us how they do the very things they just got through defining, even though those things may or may not be things they do. And then the behavioral questions, right underneath it, it says, now look, if this person is a good match for this job, here's how they're going to answer that question. Here's how they look. Here's how they lean. This is how they talk. This is what they say. So that's kind of your final little clearance that you got the right person in front of you. They're a good fit for the job. And now you just look at the skill sets that they have and decide whether they have the experience and the skills. And that would be the way that you get this down to where you reduce your turnover. And it works every time. Now let me show you a little bit more about that. Here is an example on this slide of what comes from a job assessment. We've got two measurements here. We call them the AR measurements. You can see them on the screen. It indicates that 57% is the number that we're looking for the assertiveness. This means that within this job, a person who likes this job is going to like assertiveness. Now, not over-the-top assertiveness, or it'd be up in the 70s and 80s, but not slow-paced. It's going to be a little bit quicker for this position. And they're going to have to be a little more forceful than the average person would be. The responsiveness one, the blue one, that tells us that they like working with people. They like not working with people. They like working with people a lot. They like working with people a little. So the score we're looking for is someone to come in within 10 points of those numbers. And if we find them within 10 points of that number, they're going to like the job. Now, if they have the skills and we want to invest in them, they'll stay with you. That's what this tells us. Now, you see the little light blue in the middle there where it says, how do you share the job? That's the link. That's the link that goes to the recruiters or to the posting that people take, and automatically it does all these assessments for them. It takes them about 20 minutes to do an assessment online. But you get from it not only this kind of information, but you also get a resume. You get the information about their skill sets and what they are. All of that is there before you ever even make the phone call. A lot of people, some sales managers say, well, people aren't going to spend 20 or 30 minutes filling out an application. We found that when people read the descriptors that came out of that job assessment, and they go, wow, that sounds like me, they'll take the time because it's a job that they've already identified before they've ever even made a phone call or even been interviewed, that job sounds like them. And that's what people want, is a job that they will fit. Of course, when salespeople, a job that will fit and they can make money. So that's what this one is for. The next one is what we call, and I talked a little bit about this, this is where you set up what skills you're looking for, and you determine how much the job is, what kind of experience you want, what kind of information you're going to need from them. All of this goes in the ad for them to be able to comment on and look at. And then the next thing is the questions that come out of it, the descriptors. You look through these. These are 10 out of the 32 that we're going to give you on any position you've done. And you look at them, and maybe you didn't like one of them, but you like one of the ones that isn't highlighted in blue. That's all right. Click on the blue and go to the other one, highlight it. What you do is you're refining the questions, the descriptors you're going to use in finding a person who matches that position. The thing that happens is the questions. I talked about those. Here's an example of the behavioral questions. Well, I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but if you are, these are hard to read because it's awful small. But it's just there for an illustration, and we'll be happy to demonstrate those for you at any time, either on the phone or even at conference, wherever you'd like to do. We can show you how all this works with your people. No reason for you to think you got to buy something until you found out that it works for you. The next assessment that you have here is something that comes from, hey, we got the person. We've hired them. Now what do we do? Well, here's what you do. Why do people have, as one of the top 3 reasons leaving a company, is they didn't get along with their manager? Because they didn't get along with their manager. Manager doesn't understand them. Management comes in different shapes and sizes, different experience levels. Salespeople come in different shapes, sizes, and experience levels. So the real question is, if my boss, my manager, doesn't understand me, how can I help him understand me so that he and I can communicate and get along and understand how to work together. And even worse, I've got to understand him. And we may be similar, but we may be different. So this is what we call an in-sync report. It comes down and the best way to use this, to use it on the first day someone's hired. They come on in, the manager, does his usual things, introduces them around, shows them their desk, gives them their numbers, gives them their badges, go through HR, fill out the forms. But one thing that has to happen in their first couple of days is the manager sits down and says, hey, listen, Mike, I've got a report here that tells you about me. I'd like to review that with you and let you understand a little bit about how I do things. Would that be helpful to you as a new hire? Well, every new hire in the world is going to say, well, yeah, I'd love that. And not only that, by the way, I've got one here that tells me about you. Would you take that report and look that over? I'd like us to talk about these 12 things. Here's what the 12 things are about. Mike, I communicate like this. I'm kind of a big picture kind of guy. When you come to me and you want to talk about something or you have a problem or you're looking for some assistance, if you just come walking in and just start giving me detail, I'm a little slow to pick up on it. I have to see, first of all, why are we talking about it, and then give me the detail. But it turns out maybe that the person that's sitting across from me, who I've just hired, is more detail-oriented, and they come in and they don't know how to do that. So we're talking about how to do that right up front. So when we're all done, we both have a real clarity as to how each other communicates. And then if you go further down in the report, and I've shown several pages here so you have an example of it, it tells you things like, this is how I think, this is how I make decisions. If you're upset about something, this is how you tell me. This is the most successful way to motivate me. This is the way that I make decisions. This is the way I push and I'm motivated to do things. So the in-sync report, one-page report, and boy, does it tell a manager how to communicate with his employee and the employee how to communicate with him. So that's a very successful report. This next slide that I'm showing you is nothing more than the slide that shows you the outcome of the individual. For instance, the one you're looking at here just shows you in the work environment, this person favors this certain pattern of communication. Here's how he uses the other ones. And here, by the way, is why he was a match to that position we were looking for. His responsiveness was 50, 62. His assertiveness was 50. They were within the 10 points of what we were looking for. Perfect match. And it tells me other things about them. For instance, it says, look, the ideal job for this person you're hiring right here is right here on the left. And if this job is going to work well for them, it'll allow them to do these kinds of things because this is what they perform best in. And this is what the job needs to expect of them for them to feel like they fit. So you get a chance to kind of make sure you got the right person, that you're doing and providing the right environment, that kind of thing, for the highest productivity. And, of course, everybody that comes to you will have behavioral challenges. And so out of that report, we tell not only the individual who's been hired, but we tell the manager, look, here are some of the areas this person will have difficulty with, and here are some of the ways you can help them get through that and be productive sooner rather than later. So this report has lots of information in it. Here's the possible negative perceptions that they might give to other members of the team. So you can talk to them about those things. You can figure out how to help them with them. And then, of course, there's always the famous thing, which, hey, here's the neutral perspective. On the whole, here's how this person is going to perform for you. So what have I been talking about here? What I've been talking about is there a way for us to screen potential applicants for a job and know that at least when we talk to them, according to ratings of Tier 1, 2, or 3, Tier 1 being closest to the job, that if they have the skill, I'm going to be interviewing somebody that is going to love this job. And that you know before you ever have to even interview them. And then when you do get them in, if there's more than one person interviewing them, are you both asking the same questions, trying to measure the same things? Not usually. But this process of using the behavioral questions means we're all focused on knowing the same things. And the same things are, do they match the job? And the skill sets, you ask those questions. Their experience, you ask those questions. But all of that information without a good job fit means that person will turn on you before too long, and you have spent a lot of money and gone down the hill. Anyway, I'm probably sounding like a sales rep now, and I'm proud of that because I love to sell. But the bottom line is this. Anything you can do as a sales manager that reduces your turnover and allows the people that you hire to be successful sooner and faster can only improve your goals and your objective for your company and your organization, and that is to hit certain quotas and certain numbers. And if you've got a turnover problem, you need to talk to us. Why? Because if we can help you reduce the amount of that you have going on, we are going to make you a hero. We're going to help you succeed in your goals, your objectives, and the growth of your company. And that's called a summary, and that's about the best I could do. I would love to talk to any of you. Feel free to call us. I'm sure you have my numbers somewhere in this presentation. I'm sure there's a way for you to get a hold of us, but feel free to call me at any time. I'm happy to show you how this works. We've got a whole team here that do that for you. Thank you for taking time. Hope to see you, meet you in the future. Thank you again.
Hello, it's Mike Cheney again. Listen, I want to encourage you to visit the InsideSales.com virtual booth for more information about these subjects we've been talking about. And whatever you do, don't forget to schedule a demo. Without a demo, you just won't know how we can help you. So please visit our site.